by the seat of my pants kind of guy. Hey, we're live. It's been a while. It's the first episode of the Hot Box of 2016. Very exciting. Matt Lee, Gooey Rabinski here. Talk about some weed stuff. Talk about some derbs. Got some product review stuff. I know you had a couple review things, so we'll play the intro and we'll get this thing started.
Cool.
Hotboxpodcast.com.
On the seventh day,
The terrors of tripping on fun.
Be there! Scour the spaceways! Explore vast alien worlds! Tin right here contains the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day.
Good.
And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi, big fat doobies. Hi.
Hi, what's up, everybody? Today is Sunday, January 24th, 2016. This is episode 171 of the Hot Box. Matt Lee, got Gooey Rabinski joining me this evening. Going to talk about some weed stuff, some derb stuff, some fun marijuana stuff. Gooey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, buddy. Happy 2016, and you're a father now, dude.
Yeah, that's right. There's a baby in here. If you hear it screaming, you shouldn't, because I have a cat and the girlfriend watching the baby. So
I don't even think the screaming bothers me. It's like the diarrhea sounds. You know,
now,
I'm trying to be crude.
I was smart, and beforehand I had a little contract. I was like, hey, I'm not touching poo, pee, puke, any of those things. So it's
what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Right.
But how? No. How do you?
Well,
I'm not trying to be a jerk, but
no,
how the hell
it's well. Negotiating. Let's say I had something she wanted. She wanted that. I had some demands in order to meet that, and
you crazy kids.
A little give and take. I know it's 2016. This is how we do things.
No, as long as what matters is that it works for the two of you.
Well, yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's an evolution of the process. I mean, it's not like I was gonna get some country or kingdom or like goats or anything like that, right? So we gotta. This is the important things in 2016. I don't want to touch pee or poo. So that's
interesting. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I did. My kids are teenagers now, and but I did at least 50, if not 60% of the diapers. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of female listeners gonna be like, yeah, right, 60%. You lying?
Yeah, no, he did. He's a feminist at heart, through and through.
Well, I made sure, because you want to avoid it. It's not particularly, awe-inspiring or super fun.
Sure.
And
sure. I can imagine.
Every time I was tempted to pull that little, maybe I'll just go out in the garage, and then she'll have to do it or something like that. Anytime I was tempted to do that, I just jumped right in and just effing did it.
Just got it over with, right? And then hand her.
That's the approach I always took.
Here's a clean baby. Now I'll be out in the garage. I don't want to be disturbed for at least an hour and a half.
That's right. But I will tell you, brother, that grandchildren, I take them great, love them to death. But, diaper time, hello, here's your child. Have fun. I'm going to go watch, YouTube. No more. I paid my dues. I'm done with it. I will never do it.
Yeah, that's like payback time, pretty much. It's like I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this little baby and then hand the baby back to you, and you can enjoy dealing with that.
That's
what grandparents do.
My kids will be like, will you babysit while we go on spring break or some crap like that, and I'll be a sucker. I'll say yes. Yeah. But right now I'm saying no more diapers. That's just the official stance.
So you were checking out some cannabis conference stuff. I know we got a couple coming up here with CannaCon. That means I've been here a year, because that was the first time I came up here in Washington was for CannaCon for all that. So that's kind of exciting to see how much it's gotten bigger and everything. What kinds of industries have stuck around? Like it's kind of like going to CES or something in the technology sector where you see a lot of stuff, but like 80% of it's vapor, right? Like you're never going to see it make it to market. It's all right. It's all just fluffy crap, So it'll be interesting to see how much of that percentage in the cannabis industry is actual sticky, coming back year after year with innovative products, not just rehashing, the same crap everyone else is doing. But what was the one you were at?
I was at Green Flower Media out of California, put on something called the Cannabis Health Summit. And it was high definition video coming from a professional studio, very well produced. I'm really a big fan of Green Flower, and Max Simon, founder and CEO, really he has his shit together. You know, he put on a great show. He brought in these brilliant speakers, and they got down hard and heavy with the science of this.
Was it all virtual, or there was actual a physical place that they had speakers, but they just streamed it live for everyone?
Well, there were some people there, but I think basically like 99.99% of their audience was on the other end of a broadband.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't like a big conference where you're all there trading like
Correct.
Cold viruses and everything.
Right.
Yeah,
it was nice
sure.
in that they did have a small live audience, but not some like a big conference, not not hundreds or thousands of people.
That's cool though, because I feel like that, I mean, a lot of people, you can go to the conferences and in person, there's just a lot of distractions and stuff. If it's something you're sitting down at home and you're like in front of your computer ready to absorb, I think you'll get what they're trying to get across a lot easier.
Oh, I absolutely freaking loved it. And I've been in IT for a long time, since I got out of college. Since even in college, I was doing IT technical writing and stuff. And so I'm just a big believer in, bring the people broadband and let them be creative and price it in a way that it's democratic, and people will do really, really cool shit.
Oh, for sure.
Technology. And that's exactly what I think Max Simon and Gregory Fry and just his entire team there at Green Flower pulled off this weekend. I'll admit, going into it, I was what I would call cautiously optimistic. I was like, I really like these guys. I'm rooting for them. I hope they can pull this off, because there's just so many things on the technical side that can go wrong when you've got 10,000 simultaneous video feeds from your server.
Yeah, you definitely need to make sure you're ready with the bandwidth to handle that. I know we were doing that kind of stuff from like the Montana hearings they were having for medical cannabis, and it was pretty much like hoping you had decent internet, but then being ready like with little like 3G cards and everything. It wasn't ideal, but it looks like they had their stuff hardwired and had a really nice stream and all that.
It was really gorgeous, cool. and I really can't wait for it to come out. I don't, if they do end up selling DVDs or whatever, I just want online access. There's going to be a lot of bonus materials, and they're also offering a year of this magazine that's for cannabis industry professionals, which tells me that it's a relatively new magazine. That's kind of a new segment, but I'm very interested in it. It looks pretty professional, and I was embarrassed to say I wasn't familiar with this magazine.
What's it called again?
I think it's called MG, but let me check on that. But anyway, so they're offering. I even without knowing the price, I'm probably just going to pay it and get the online access, because there was so much hard science and so many recent studies discussed just so many incredible perspectives from doctors who are working with patients on a daily basis. And these are doctors who believe in cannabinoid and terpene therapy. They're doctors who were sometimes at the forefront of this research. And boy, let me tell you, what came out of their mouth was just very enlightening. It kind of went beyond education. It was inspirational and made you proud to be a part of this movement, and to be able to get information from people like this who are clearly passionate and just have so much knowledge.
Well, that's good too, because a lot of this stuff is pretty new. So you see articles like what we saw here on the Weed blog, talking about how dabs are basically the biggest thing now that police and the media are needlessly freaking out about. So it kind of gives people like the knowledge to be able to go against what this rhetoric is saying and being like, no, it's actually not all of this ridiculous fear-mongering crap you're saying it is. Like it's just derbs, it's dabs, like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, there was a doctor there, a doctor from California, coincidentally, who clearly said, and this isn't the first time she's received, you know, maybe a countering voice, so to speak. But she said she did not think dabbing. This made me think of you, dude. She said she did not think that dabbing was real medicine. And she came up with some, quite frankly, some decent reasons why. I don't agree with her, but still, I totally respect and like the fact that she was gutsy enough to kind of go against the tide of what a lot of other of her peers are saying.
Well, it depends. It depends what her context is. Like, sure, if you took a certain slice of the dab population, like a lot of that shit's not medicine. It's garbage. It's full of butane. It's not purged right. Like, there's a ton of things wrong with it. You wouldn't want to give that to a actual, like a cancer patient or somebody that's actually trying to use it as medicine, not just, like we're doing, just getting stoned on it, So
right.
it depends. But there's also like a subset that there is a very, medical protocol in place to produce this stuff to the highest grade that they can. And it is legit medicine. It's saving people every day. It's raising their, their comfort level in whatever they're dealing with.
Right.
So
yeah, it was. But anyway, I would encourage listeners to check it out. It's just at Cannabis Health Summit. I believe it's .com.org. Anyway,
nice.
Everybody uses Google. Just type that in, press enter, and it will bring you the world.
And some of the stuff, like in this article, I agree with. Like there are home explosions that happen because people are trying to make it themselves.
Right.
So there is definitely some sort of standard that needs to be there. That's like, okay, if you don't have this, and this, then you shouldn't be doing this outside. And if you are, then here's how you should be doing it outside. And, here's how to be safe about what you're doing. But ideally, you would just, I guess, leave it up to, each state to figure that part out for themselves. But that's a lot of it. Like you put the word explosion in and instantly people think meth lab. And then from there, they already have that context in their mind that it's just this negative, gross, dirty shit. And yeah.
Right. I think you bring up an excellent point. There is a lot of crap BHO out there. In fact, I think maybe this is, we get all these political kind of,
it's like prohibition's fault though, because you can't open up legit labs in places,
right,
like in certain states. So
right,
the only access people have to is, whatever their friends are making or whoever.
Right. It's
so technically, if you want to think about it, I blame the home explosions on prohibition, not on dabs. So there.
And that's a good way of looking at it. And there's this, we have to remember too that I remember seeing you see the kind of bumper sticker philosophy like on Facebook. I recently got on Facebook in late
Have you
December.
seen all of the stick figures? Oh my god. That
but
out of control.
The whole idea that if somebody's just an idiot, and I'm not trying to be negative, I think we're fairly positive here. But if they're just an idiot, it doesn't matter whether they're straight or stoned or high. You know what I mean? An idiot is an idiot. And we know that the conservatives and the prohibitionists have taken examples of idiots who just happen to like get high all the time or happen to be high and they did something stupid.
Some would even say they have paid some idiots to go and do things like that to then frame a certain, conversation a certain way. So
right. So but I think back to when these apartment buildings, this is not happening all over the place. It's not like an epidemic, but there have been cases of there was that one in Bellevue, Washington. We've talked about it on previous podcasts where the ex-Microsoft dudes blow the place up, and this 86-year-old former mayor of Bellevue falls like 6 stories to her death because she's 86 and they can't. I wouldn't want to save a 12-year-old from a 6-story fall, let alone an 86-year-old. So we get these people just doing this really freaking stupid stuff, and that's if we assume that the BHO they were creating might have been top shelf, really healthy stuff. They still kill people in the process of making it.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is just misreporting. They're saying here this paper, the Middletown patch, they're going around and publishing things saying that shatter is 5 more times potent than pot and can cause explosions once it's lit. So if you're even just smoking it, you might explode. You don't know.
My head could blow up. That's terrible.
Yeah.
You gotta.
And they're just confusing, obviously how it's made. They just hear what they want to hear out of it. And they're like, oh, it has this flammable thing in it. Of course, once you light it, it explodes.
Yeah. It's
just bad reporting. It's bad
I think
journalism.
you're right. This is, and I heard this theme echoed several times during the Cannabis Health Summit this weekend, where many of the best speakers I heard said, look, I wish this was as simple as, this versus this, or these 3 elements.
Right. It's totally not, though. It's so much more than that. It's unnecessarily more.
Yep. It's complicated, it's just really complicated stuff. So, but you bring up a very good point with the purging. So you can't say BHO is good or BHO is bad. Let's face it, just like cars, just like a massage,
it's the technique. It's the equipment. It's the person operating the equipment. It's, the input material. It's the grade of solvent you're using. There's a whole bunch of variables for sure.
Exactly. So that's why I kind of get frustrated, especially, as a journalist or a writer, when I hear statements like that are overly simplistic, that this is good or this is bad. And you just think to yourself, how do you even respond to that? Because it's just such an ignorant statement.
Well, and that's what it is, right? It's at that point, it becomes a contest of who can get the higher rank for those search terms. So when the argument comes up on Facebook or Twitter and people go Google freaking dab explosions or whatever, they're either going to find this kind of nonsense that's just bad reporting and, not really even journalism, or they're going to come across an episode of this show, or they're going to come across an article you've done on Waxy. So it is kind of like up to us to flood as much of that out there as we can, so that, when people are out there looking for it, it's a lot easier sifting through the bullshit.
I think you bring up a really good point. So anyway, we don't need to kick that topic to death. Just if you take anything home with you, your take home kiddies today is this is really complicated science. These are molecules, highly volatile,
lots of pressure,
molecules.
Lots of heats, lots of all sorts of stuff that could go wrong if you don't know what you're doing. Sure.
That's right. So what else is going on?
Let's talk about this thing before we move on, since we're talking about dabs. Have you seen the Dabadoo Bolt?
Is that what you were posting some pictures on?
Yeah. So if you guys are listening, if you go to Instagram.com/thejamhole, that's my Instagram, you'll see a couple pictures of this, like nice in the light box and everything. But basically, it's kind of what we've been looking for, I think. Like when you're using your cartridges or your vape pens, sometimes you're just like, I need a bigger dab. Like this is just not doing it, right? This is not doing it for me. And this is kind of that. It's got the battery here, and it's pretty much like a cell phone battery. It's like 2,700 milliamps or 2,780 or something. And then, it's got a ceramic dish with this titanium bowl in it. And then it's got this glass piece that goes on it. And you can put water in this part. I'm showing the camera if you're watching live, hotboxpodcast.com/live. You can see this. But I've kind of been liking it dry without water in it. Plus water, I think, will make the dab clog these slits for your diffusion. But so you hit this button and it heats up, and then it turns green when it's ready, and then you dab. It's got a little carb cap, and you do that, and then you dab more. And It fits in this little box, which is awesome. But I got a full review and pictures and all that stuff coming out for it on stuffstonerslike.com. But it's called the Dabadoo Bolt. So check that stuff out. It's pretty cool. It's kind of my new favorite portable rig. It's a lot easier than trucking an e-nail and like a glass piece and then all the
it looks
stuff.
like a sweet little unit. I turned
and this is cool too. Like it's got this little foot, but it's all magnets, so it stays on it. But it's really well made and nice. I like it.
Sweet. I've been digging the. I just a few days ago, Waxy published my review of the Puffco Pro concentrate vape pen.
Wait,
And
how did that
thing-
one work? Did you dig it?
I freaking love this thing. I have to admit, I did not anticipate liking it this much. It's really fantastic. Now, it only works with concentrates. So, you got to compare apples with apples. Don't compare it with something that handles flowers, because it's very different. But it's all metal and ceramic. Metal and ceramic. There's no glues in it. Everything is threaded very precisely, and it all clamps together. But I'll tell you, when that the reason they sell those ceramic atomizers for $15 is because it's going to get gummed up, it's going to get crappy, and you're going to be able to clean it a few times, but it's not going to be that long.
Yeah, it's definitely something you need to be replacing if you want to keep it working.
I saw one guy like on the East Coast in Jersey or something who does a ton of good reviews. I forget his name, but he's pretty smart on this stuff. And just in all honesty, he might not be a professional writer or reviewer, but he certainly understands these freaking vape pens and mobile vapes. And he was saying that, you after about a month, you'd want to buy, if you were just using it on a daily basis, you would want to buy yourself a new $15 atomizer, which I think is a great deal. I love the fact that this thing has no plastic. And I was reading one review that compared a totally different vape pen, but with one that Snoop Dogg, with all due respect, and I really
saw those.
Snoop is a hilarious entertainer. I love his. I really, I like the guy. I don't really listen to his music. I'm listening to like the Who and the Rolling Stones and stuff. It's just kind of neat.
His series on narrating animals, though, is pretty on point.
I should check that out. I haven't even
It's
seen
just
that.
so
I've seen
funny.
the Trailer Park Boys stuff. But anyway, there was a vape pen that he's put his name on, the Pro G or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's got plastic in it and everything, and it's like $120. I really like this Puffco. It's $80, and I think last week they had it on sale for like $74. I mean, I consider that really, really cheap, quite frankly. And I'm not a rich guy, but for what it does, I was amazed it was under 100.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's cool to see what kind of innovation this sort of these things have a lot of like technology people in them, so it kind of evolves quickly like tech does, and there are all sorts of new cool ones coming out all the time. So I'm stoked to be getting sent some of this stuff to review, as I'm sure you are. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's I just get the feeling that especially in terms of the battery, it's a USB charge, the battery on it. Most of the heft of it is in the battery, 50-60% of the length of this pen and the battery. And it's nice to know you can replace that battery too, although battery life in the Puffco was stellar. I mean, multiple days. And in order to review it, I really wanted to become familiar with it. So I was making it kind of my primary, this is how I'm going to medicate today for the most part.
Just puff and tough on it, huh?
Yeah, boy, I don't think I had to recharge it till like the third day.
That's cool.
If
you think about it too, they are basically the size of your cell phone battery. So what your cell phone battery powers a lot more stuff than just a little atomizer,
Right,
So
exactly.
That's cool.
So yeah, I'm pleased. And for the money, oh man, you can't beat it. I'm kind of instantly a fan here. In fact, had to reach out to my BHO guy because I enjoyed using this thing and writing the review so much that I just bland through a gram of BHO in probably 6 or 7 days.
6 or 7 days. Wow, that's a really long time, Gooey.
I would see. Remember,
I know. I'm just
that's
messing
about
with
4
you.
hours for you.
I know. I'm just messing with you. Hey, you follow all this political nonsense, yeah?
Some of it depends.
I'm curious what you think. There was an article on the Motley Fool here about what the weed market would look like under this Bernie Sanders guy. People feeling the burn out there, it seems like.
Yeah.
And they're thinking the market obviously getting larger. I think that would pretty much happen either way. But do you think this is? I'm sure there's a lot of people that smoke weed. They're like, man, we have no idea who we're going to vote for because it's like turd sandwich or a giant douche.
Well, this is just me, okay? I'm not trying to advise anybody, and I'm not claiming to be.
No, you're the hot box political advisor. Advise
Right.
advise us.
That's a sad state of affairs.
I cheers.
Just got done this weekend at this health summit, like some of the smartest people I've ever heard. So I certainly don't want to have anybody think that I'm a really smart guy on this, but there's some interesting politics here, to say the least.
Is he the least of the evils that could be voted for? Or
I think, okay, if you're a cannabis person, okay, this is a hot box podcast.
We are cannabis people here, yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming if you're listening that you're either curious and it might go in the direction of being pro pot, pro med pot, whatever, pro legalization, or good chance you're already in that camp. I'd say 99% of your listeners.
By the time we've gotten to you, you're pretty well deep in the trenches of that camp, I would say.
Right, you drank the Kool-Aid or however you want to say it, and okay, so if you're a pot person, I think you hope that Bernie gets the nomination and that he can win the presidency. There's all these gates you got to get through. But in terms of just, forgetting all that complexity and saying, who would you rather be in the White House? If you're a pot person, medical marijuana, if you have any serious epilepsy, cancer, MS, you got to want Bernie in there or you're a freaking idiot. Okay. Remember, I'm not talking about economic policy. I'm not talking about all this other stuff.
Just strictly based on the weed, right?
Right. Just based on that. No shit. You want him in there, okay? But if you can't get him, then you want Hillary, because I get the feeling that Hillary would be very similar to Obama, and that she wouldn't do anything positive really at the federal level. She also wouldn't screw it up, and she would kind of let the states do her own thing.
Now, normally, I don't really follow this stuff. I would really have to troll you hard right now for saying that Hillary is the other. But in lieu of recent events and what the other alternative would be with Donald Biff, Mountain Dew, Camacho Trump, like I at that point I am hard pressed to just burn the vote and walk away from it at that point. Yeah. But I don't know.
Look at their two strongest right now. Okay, Ted Cruz, he's freaking evangelical. All right, he thinks Jesus hates the weed. I mean, it's
It's pretty much like AIDS or hepatitis. Like, it's choosing just the worst of the worst shit of the worst shit. Like, there's no way around it at that point. So let's hope it doesn't get to that point.
Absolutely. So I've seen some really good kind of meme-like stuff on Facebook, other social media, where it's saying, yeah, duh, if you're in this culture, you want Bernie. But look, if Bernie doesn't get it, don't shit your pants. Go for Hillary. Just keep the Chris Christies and the Ted Cruzes and the Donald Trumps the hell out of there, because boy, they could really mess up some wonderful. I mean, Chris Christie doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell, okay, of getting the nomination.
But wouldn't that be fun? It would almost be fun to just do that. Like, let's all just the biggest troll ever worldwide, just all vote for that guy and sit back and watch it burn. Like, not Bernie burn, but like watch Trump just destroy everything. We'll just sit back from the bunker and like watch it all just go to shit. That could be, could be an alternative.
I understand your sense of adventure, but you joined my camp, dude. You have kids now, and you got to give a shit whether somebody like Trump burns the rodeo down. You have to care now.
I don't think so. I mean, I see where you're coming from in that, but I mean, there's other planets, there's other countries that.
So you're Elon Musk, man, eh? You want to go to Mars?
No, well, no, not after seeing The Martian, but maybe somewhere a little more Goldilocks zone-ish, I suppose.
That's called Oregon. Well, hell, you live in Washington. You're in the Goldilocks place, dude. You want to move to New Jersey?
Well, yeah, but I was saying, like, worst case, like nuclear fallout, need a new planet type of sitch. I wouldn't go to Mars. I'd try and shoot for one of those other. But yeah, we're pretty well effed in the A either way, I think.
Effed in the A.
Effed right in the A.
Yeah, F to the A. So yeah, I'm very. I think just again, if you're in the cannabis culture, if you're like any of the people who eagerly tuned into that health summit this weekend, or who purchased the Puffco Pro, something like that, do that, and enjoy your vaped concentrates, you're in the culture, okay? Don't put too much thought. Don't hurt your brain thinking about this, okay? It's Bernie if he gets it. If he don't, it's Hillary. And again, I'm not expecting anything out of her except more an Obama-esque approach.
More of the same, just a little extra time, extra breathing space before the inevitable.
Yeah, just a little more cleavage, and she needs facelift more than Obama. That's all.
Or if you want to watch the world burn with me, then vote for Trump, or write in somebody else. Did you see this in Springfield, Massachusetts? They had a fire at a house. There was a fire, and when the fire department got up in there, there was a little bit of a grow, you could say. Some weed plants growing inside. So then, of course, they're saying that as these grow operations become more widespread, all of this technology gets all sophisticated, and then things start exploding, because as we know, sophisticated technology takes a lot of energy to run. So but I can't attribute this to any sort of like criminal activity per se, unless you look at prohibition and blame it on that, because if you weren't being so prohibitive, you could have done this legally in the right way and not risk explosions or burning things down.
Here's a good example. I was reading up on hydrogen fuel cell cars over the past
very explosive.
Now, yes, okay,
possibly,
and that's one of the arguments against. Very highly contested. It's very emotional. All these
Hindenburg
environmentalist
survivors, right?
They get anyway. So what they say is they say, oh well, bottling, compressing the hydrogen and then getting it to a hydrogen dispensing station, like a gas station, but with hydrogen, and they would probably serve up both. But anyway, that there's all this danger inherent in that, and there is, and that's real, okay? But we regulate it very, very strongly, whether you like or don't like the petroleum industry. I'm not a big fan, okay? But, I can't remember the last time there was an explosion at a gas station anywhere, especially near me or in my city or whatever. Okay. And so the argument was to transport this hydrogen. We do it with gas, and gas is highly volatile and extremely explosive. We move it down to refine it and move it down the road every single day. So the argument is, and I adhere to this argument, is that we could do the exact same thing with hydrogen. Hydrogen is not inherently unsafe. Now, sorry for being verbose, because this whole thing is just an analogy for anything you're going to do with cannabis, and you just if you regulate it, what you were saying with prohibition, okay? I agree to blame it on prohibition. Pull it out of that and regulate it. This was a continuing theme in the Cannabis Health Summit by Green Flower Media this weekend, where there were pleas, sometimes emotional pleas, saying people are dying, patients are dying, and we need to regulate this. And we need to pull it out of prohibition. And again, my analogy with the hydrogen and transportation of very volatile fuels is that, only in prohibition do you get those explosions killing the 86-year-old former mayor of Bellevue. When you regulate this and do it in labs and use the right equipment and use smart people like you and the professor, okay, you don't get this shit blowing up in the middle of the night and killing little old ladies.
My question is, when did we become such little babies? Like, why, if we never did anything that wasn't like, that could have been dangerous, like we would never have we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be exploring space. Like you can't use that like as an excuse to be like, oh, I'm sorry that you might get hurt doing it, so we better just not.
That's true too.
Like, well,
That's
I could get hurt leaving my house, so well, I better just not. You're gonna just have to send me a check every month and a bunch of food and shit. Like that's the yeah. I don't know. I don't like those arguments. It's silly.
Yeah. So what else is going on in the world of cannabis?
Well, there was some research happening as far as migraines and cannabis easing that sort of thing. We know that there's been some studies, probably not as many as there should be, in regards to like microdosing for tension headaches and stuff like that of psilocybin, which seems to really ease those headaches. So it's interesting to see that there's also some easing of those migraines using weed, which is kind of cool.
One of the doctors at the Cannabis Health Summit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Anyway, he was talking about microdosing, and there were a couple different speakers that talked about dosing in terms of how it's like a bell curve and it's got a sweet spot. Okay,
right.
So too much, and you can actually exacerbate the disease or the condition or the inflammation. Too little obviously doesn't hit the mark. And anyway, there's some very, very interesting information on that obviously would apply to all diseases or afflictions, including migraines.
Yeah, and you get different effects depending on the dose, obviously. So if it depends what you're trying to shoot for, I guess.
Right.
This study in particular, they did 121 patients. 103 reported a decrease in their monthly migraines. The frequency of migraines dropped from about 10 per month to less than 5. They say that they felt like those numbers, those stats, can really back up that weed is helpful here. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
The researchers believe the serotonin plays a role in migraine headaches. They're trying to study more how cannabinoids ease that pain. They say, quote, "This made us think about a lot more questions that we want answered, and so it would be ideal if we could design those prospective, big, randomized clinical trials to look at this in more detail." That would be great, federal government, if we could only just be able to do that in more than just a couple places. That would be really fantastic. Wow.
You know, one of the, and I'm sorry for just bringing this up, but it's very fresh on my mind, and it was such excellent information. Again, people will want to check out this Cannabis Health Summit. But there were multiple speakers who talked about the lack of research. And this one gentleman, and I apologize, I forget his name. It was just an onslaught. It was really just kind of crazy.
Well, it's not for lack of people wanting to study it. It's like it was very hard to get a Schedule I research license before, you know.
We was talking about how there's about 20,000 research studies, most of which do not involve human trials. You know, they're preclinical, so they're petri dishes, they're test tubes. You know, they're sometimes, boy, we feel really lucky if we get a primate or a mouse or a rat.
Right.
Are they actually
very early stage stuff?
Yeah, but you know, it was very early stage. Well, his estimate was that out of those 20,000 research studies, that only about 200 involve human trials, and of those 200, the vast majority involved that really shitty weed from NIDA, okay, from the Mississippi farm, the government, you know, the federal stuff, where you know, the percentage, the THC percentage was just like 2 or 3. You know, it was like we were talking about that before with our friend the stockbroker there in Florida, you know, with his government joints. You know, that stuff is just such crap. Well, that's the exact same stuff, to my understanding, that was being used in these studies. So if you're going to do a research study and say that, oh, we didn't notice much benefit from smoking these stems and seeds, you know, it's like,
yeah,
well,
weird,
no
right?
shit, you know, use some real medicine.
Right. And I mean, have that data there, like here's what was in the material that we were using. So clearly you could look at those stems and seeds and be like, oh, well, see, your problem is there was really nothing good in there. No terpenes, no good cannabinoids. I mean, maybe a couple, but nothing.
Yeah, you needed some terpenes, you know,
yeah,
you needed
some
20%
buds, some
THC,
calyx,
you know, and you had
trichomes. Get in there with all that.
dumbasses. God, the politics are just so, the conservatives, just, I try not to be too polarized and too much of a zealot, but I mean, boy, these conservatives.
It's humans, dude. If you could just stop being so freaking unreasonable, like a lot more things could get accomplished.
And I'm not trying to offend.
Not you personally, just humans
I know.
in general. Very, very unreasonable group.
And maybe it's the, what I've been, the medicine I've been using today has me a little too honest, but I really am not trying to offend anyone of faith or anyone who's religious, just not at all. But I'm sorry, I see so many problems arising from fundamentalism and people of, pretty hardcore evangelical backgrounds and mindsets. They hate our culture, dude. They think weed is evil. They refuse to consider it as a medicine. And I'm like, holy crap, your Jesus is telling you to help these sick people, and you're letting them suffer with Oxycontin and these terrible opiate drugs, and this chemotherapy. And wow, yeah, I see a whole lot of compassion there. So
I feel like that's not them, though. Like, that comes from somewhere. They didn't just wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm going to hate potheads. Like, that's been ingrained into them from years of this prohibition bullshit.
Well, don't they say, doesn't it go? And I'm not very...
yeah, it does. It's self-fulfilling for sure, but I mean, there's only so much you can do when that stuff is brainwashed into you over decades and decades of staring at a TV and doing what you're told. Like, that's where that comes from. It
doesn't go back to like the Middle Ages and like where the Druid culture, the people
it probably started, I would say, maybe around the printing press. Once you could mass produce that stuff and really get it out there. I mean, people have been being controlled by media since like the old yellers that were in the King's Court, like hollering about who was doing what and everything. Like, they were getting told that to go out to shape a certain opinion. Like, that's what it is.
I can tell you enjoy
why we do this show, right? That's why people write. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. It's just sad that they won't, because I try to make my opinions and my perception of all this science based. It's not really my opinion. It's the opinion of the science is the way.
I heard once that opinions are like assholes. I forget how the rest of it goes, but there was this other article about some other research talking about how actually it might not be the cannabis that's the culprit for this IQ decline. Apparently there's a big IQ decline in adolescence, and they're trying to blame it on weed. But then there was this study done with the Stoner twins. Dude. Are you familiar with the Stoner twins?
No.
They were so they say to test whether these things are happening. These authors pulled data from 2 different twin studies, gathering information from slightly more than 3,000 individual twins. Twin studies are, of course, an important way to get better insight into confusing causal pictures, because they can control for 2 of the major confounding factors: family background and genetics, right? Because identical twins share nearly all of their DNA and non-identical twins share only around half of their DNA. Seeing greater similarity between identical twins tells us how much difference can be explained by genetics. So that helps, of course, establish the baseline. They took all the IQ tests to assess their participants' cognitive function before marijuana involvement. Okay. That was between the ages of 9 and 12. Then they conducted another set of tests when the subjects were 17 to 20. And at each stage, they asked the participants about their marijuana usage and the usage of other drugs, including alcohol, using standard diagnostic interviews designed to ascertain substance abuse. So, of course, you can intuit what they found, that actually the weed had nothing to do with the IQ being higher or lower of one or the other. So, pretty cool.
Yep, it's I definitely do think when you have good medicine and your approach, kind of a lot of the speakers this weekend talked about mind, body, spirit approach, a holistic approach to this. And granted, a lot of these speakers are coming out of California, and so it kind of reflects a West Coast culture or
woo. Culture. Would you say there was a lot of woo there, perhaps?
A lot of what?
Woo. It's called woo. Like water dowsing, that would be a form of woo, or like acupuncture would probably be considered a form of woo.
I think a lot of these people definitely, look at things from an alternative medicine and holistic approach. Obviously, they've embraced cannabis and are very interested in the science of terpenes and cannabinoids.
Well, that's good. At least they have something that actually does have some sort of effect in their toolbox to use.
Yeah,
I do hate to see cannabis get exploited to take people's money like that, but I mean,
I do agree with the mind, body, spirit. I think
yeah,
that's a really
no, definitely
intelligent way of approaching it. So anyway, you just heard this from multiple speakers, echoed the mind, body, spirit. And so I think back to my point of not only do you have good medicine, but if you approach your use of that medicine judiciously, from a good place, you're not trying to escape from reality, you're trying to enhance reality. You're trying to improve your mood, you're trying to alleviate your pain or your nausea, or your depression, your PTSD, your anxiety, your stress. You're trying to get some sleep because you have insomnia, you got a migraine. I mean, the efficacy is quite.
But is that what it comes down to? Is it's really, really good at relieving stress, and stress is probably the #1 cause of a lot of those things, or at least the start of it. So if you can eliminate the stress, you're probably going to be okay.
I mean,
I'm not stressing, and I'm okay.
If you quit drinking,
that's science right there.
Yeah, if you quit drinking, or you quit, say, smoking commercial cigarettes, tobacco cigarettes,
yeah.
They say that's two of the most totally difficult things that you can do, especially if you liked smoking cigarettes and if you liked drinking.
Well, and just throw caffeine in there.
Well, I can't quit coffee, but yeah, this is.
Well, we're not quitting anything, but I mean, for the sake of the discussion, if you want to say like the addictive things to try and stop, like those are the top 3 right there.
Absolutely. Well, my point is, and I like to maintain some of the mystery, so I want to give the exact details of this or a timetable for it. But because I had good cannabis and was approaching it from kind of a mind, body, spirit way that I think is positive, and some other people, smart people who I've listened to, who I think are kind of in tune with the reality and the science of all this, that they say it's a positive way of approaching it. And I had no problem giving up commercial cigarettes or giving up alcohol because I had good cannabis and I approached it in a mind, body, spirit way, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I was taking a rip off of my spirit here.
You're the dabbing.
But no, that's true. Like it's all about how you go into it.
But everybody's supposed to freak out at that when you quit. I'll never forget when my dad quit when I was a teenager, and it nearly damn well killed him. Oh, holy God, he was addicted to commercial cigarettes. And he would smoke, at his peak, he smoked between 1.5 and 2 packs a day. And for him to quit just nearly killed his ass.
But could that have been anything, or is there a certain kind of personality that tends to just go over, like we find something we like and we just do it until we're sick of it, and then we go on and find something else we like? Like he was just trying to smoke until he was sick of it.
No, you bring up a good point.
Because that's a lot. I've smoked for like a long time, and I don't smoke that much. Like you gotta keep that shit under control somewhat.
Well, when I smoked, and I rarely smoke an entire cigarette in one sitting. I'd smoke a third or half of it or something. I'll put it out, and cigarettes are expensive, so you can come back later.
This coming from the guy that a gram lasts 8 weeks or 8 days. What did you say? 8 days.
It was between 5 and 7.
A cigarette lasts me 3 days. A gram of dabs about a week. That makes sense, though. That's how to live for sure.
Well, I'm like, a Jewish accountant, so it's kind of the approach I take to this.
That's right. You never know.
But yeah, so I'm just like, wow. So cannabis, I didn't have, I just quit smoking and quit drinking, and it just was okay, no big deal. And I think it's because I had that cannabis, but it's not just the cannabis that was good medicine. That it was also kind of the approach I took to it. So anyway.
Would you Would you have felt better about that approach though if it wasn't weed? Like I feel like the weed makes doing those sorts of things more tolerant so that it can become part of your routine so that pretty soon you're not having to think about it because you're on weed, man. All right. This is kind of interesting. The Seattle, they're looking and saying that their city has 24 marijuana delivery businesses. They are illegal. And now they actually outnumber the 19 licensed stores there. To combat the problem, Seattle officials are pledging a crackdown, gooey, crackdown in Seattle happening. And a new legal delivery option, which this is cool. There should be an option for delivery.
I love it.
Services. I would love to roll around in an armored freaking like Cadillac or something and just deliver weed to all the weed needy people of the world. That'd be great.
I think you should have like a 78 Eldorado convertible.
Right? That's
white leather.
You took the words right out of my mind, Gooey.
Get you some hydraulics so you're doing some shit.
Oh, that'd be so great to get the weed out.
That's right.
They say this is Alex Cooley, the co-founder of marijuana producer Solstice. His business has been one of the first to receive state and city licenses, but he said his businesses like his can't compete with illegal home delivery services. He says, quote, if I were able to conduct a criminal enterprise where law enforcement doesn't care and my consumer doesn't care that it's illegal and they're breaking the law, then what's going to stop me? Solstice recently joined that competition, offering delivery for medical marijuana patients, but Seattle City Attorney Pete Holmes said he's dismayed that Solstice would take that step as a state licensed business. Holmes said there are good reasons to offer delivery, but only if it's made legal first. He says, quote, if we can make ourselves safer on the highways, if we can help adults who need access who can't otherwise get it, or people with medical authorizations, then it makes sense to do it within the legal regimen.
I mean, when you think about what's going on here, you know, people coming to your home or business, and if they are not professionals and if they don't follow a certain code of ethics, they know where you live.
But so does your pizza delivery guy. Do you expect a certain code of ethics and professionalism from the Domino's guy?
I get that from Chinese food. I get it from Pizza Hut or
but that's just a thing that just goes without saying. Why would a weed delivery service say that, oh, these guys are going to case your place and break in and rob shit?
No, I'm just saying. Hey, the pizza delivery guys are regulated, you know, the food.
But how many of them are casing places and robbing shit? You don't know because they never get caught.
I do think there needs to, when you get into a delivery service like that,
sure.
And you know, they're transporting cannabis, sometimes large quantities.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Armored Cadillac, right? Not just
right. But there's security issues. So I think, you know, are they even putting this in a lockbox? Are they putting themselves in harm's way and they just don't know it because they're idiots? You know, are these poorly run companies, poorly managed?
But wouldn't the competition then sort that out? Do you really need a regulation to step in and fix it for you? Like, are we that retarded now?
Maybe. I think there's just a lot of
we may be.
Remember, you're talking about stuff coming out of Prohibition, okay? So you know, so much of the black market was just a bunch of scumbags as it is. Have you never bought weed from just a total piece of shit? Come on.
No. You know what I've bought from total pieces of shit? It wasn't weed. It was like crack and like shitty shit. Not weed. I bought weed from respectable, really cool people. So I don't know. Where are you getting your weed from, Gooey?
No. Now it's all good, but I'm saying, you know, it's not like I'm 24 years old. I've been doing it.
No, me neither.
And in the past, I have at times
the 80s
dealt with, and I didn't like it. I would basically quit smoking at the time because I didn't want to deal with. And again, I don't want anybody to.
Well, and that depends on where you live, definitely. Like if you live in a giant big city, there more chances are you're just going to get, you know, depending on who you are and who you know, you're just going to get your money taken from you and told to get the fuck out of here, pretty much.
Well, it's the same way. It can be the same way in small towns. If you don't know the right people.
I guess. I mean, people are shitty everywhere. So
exactly. Prohibition is prohibition, man. True. When you're from a prohibitionist state, and unless you know the right people, especially when folks get into middle age and older and they're not nearly as social as high school kids and college kids and people in their 20s.
Yeah, yeah.
It becomes very difficult for them to find weed. I've known patients in prohibition states who were paying $120 for a quarter ounce of mediocre weed that typically had seeds in it and shit.
Yeah, pre-medical prices. I mean, pretty much everywhere. It was like $50 an eighth, $100 a quarter, like 300 an ounce. Shit was way more. And even now that the taxes are starting to settle down some, like the Washington rec market is becoming, I wouldn't say it's super affordable yet, depending on how much weed you smoke. If you're just like Gooey, if you're just the regular average smoker going through an eighth every week or so, you're probably okay. But
a quarter, I'm
about a quarter a week,
quarter, a little more, maybe 10 grams a week.
Yeah, see, that's not too bad. You could probably, depending on what you do for a living and what you make, you could skate by on that. But if you're smoking any more than that, or if you're in a household of smokers, like, you definitely gotta kind of rethink how you're doing that, I think.
Right, and that's why, states where you can cultivate. You can do 6 plants per person, and you got 3 adults in the house, and you can legally do 18 plants. You can have some fun, and you can make you can create a lot of medicine for yourself, or for yourself and friends and family, if it's legal to distribute to them.
Yeah. So if you're in Seattle and you have one of those delivery services, watch out. The crackdown is coming. There is going to be crackdown coming, so watch out.
I'm just so attracted to both Seattle and Portland. So really, anything that happens there, I'm like, wow, I might actually live there. So it seems it feels very close to home for me, even though I've never lived there.
Are you still looking for to pick the state? Like, are you looking to see which one makes it the best, and then?
Yeah, I'm kind of still crunching the math and everything. I do plan
running the numbers
to visit one or both. I plan to go to Portland, and I plan to go to Seattle and spend as much time there. I'm talking days, not weeks or months. I'm not going to locate there yet, but just to get a feel for thankfully they're very well documented cities. They're very popular. A lot of really cool companies, a lot of experts, and our movement, our industry come from Seattle and Portland, and so there's a lot of information out there for it. I feel like I've spent a lot of time there, even though I haven't.
It's a cool place. All right.
They are. I know I'm destined for someplace on the West Coast. I can't see it going any further south than Santa Cruz, California, and I can't see it going any further north than Seattle.
Nice. I agree there. I like Washington. All right, let's wrap this up. Hey, it was good doing another episode, finally, getting one of these out there.
It was. Congratulations. Your first episode, not only in 2016, but as a father.
I know. Did you hear Screaming Baby? They must have.
I did hear Screaming Baby, and I didn't hear the diarrhea sound either. So
I know. That's 2 wins for us right there.
I'm very cheery about
I also want to mention Project LD50's out. I came out with an album.
Right.
January 4th, we released it. So it's on Bandcamp, CD Baby, probably iTunes by now. Maybe not. They always take a long time. It is on Google Play Music. And if you subscribe to All Access, you can stream it free there. It's on Spotify, stuff like that. But you can go to thejamhole.com/music, check it out, Project LD50, or just search for Matt Lee, Matle.
Dude, you're good. What my writing is to people with insomnia, and they read a little of my stuff and it helps them sleep. That's what you are to music like that. And I mean that in a glass half full kind of way.
It's good. And it definitely helps having my brother making awesome beats. I mean, I write, but then when I'm actually making songs, it always helps to have the beat first so that I can write to it and form it that way. That's always how I've kind of done it. So it always helps to have really awesome beats from my brother. Got some mock beats on there.
Some deep talent. I mean, I knew I liked your stuff and your approach to it and your humor. Just the intro to the Hot Box.
We try and keep it light, but still be informative and all that. So.
Hey, you had Ren and Stimpy. What's not to like?
I know, right? I just found somebody put up all 5 seasons of Ren and Stimpy. So I've kind of been making my way through those, and it's all familiar now because I use those clips in these intros, and these shows have been, 600-700 episodes long now. Right. So I've heard it so much. Yeah, it was very weird. And then not seeing it again, but man, those shows are so good. Ren and Stimpy was so good. That was such a good cartoon.
I've gotten hooked on Bob's Burgers recently. My kids got me.
I
hooked
need
on
to
Bob's
start
Burgers.
that. I watched Adventure Time and
It's
stuff like
good.
that,
It's real
but
good.
I've heard that one and Mort and that other one.
Bob's Burgers is as good
heard
as
those
the
are good.
Puffco Pro. I swear to God.
Nice.
It is.
All right. Well, check out Gooey stuff over on Waxy. Check out my stuff over on stuffsnarslike.com. Got some reviews coming. Got some new weed reviews up, actually. Check out some Oregon weed from Echo Estuaries. There is a grapefruit review with a full terpene, cannabinoid profile, and then there's a Super Lemon OG Slog 7 with a terpene profile and cannabinoids over there. So, and a bunch of cool macro pictures. So check that stuff out. Stuffsnarslike.com. And of course, the Hotbox. We'll start doing episodes more regularly. Got some interviews coming up that should be pretty fun. We'll bring pot scientists back, and we're gonna have Gooey go scout talent. Go scout talent. Bring them in.
Fun people in here. We're gonna get Twice Baked in Washington. Becca Williams. We're gonna have some fun. Get some smart, passionate people.
It'll be good. So thank you all for listening. We'll catch you online. Have a great evening.